I woke up one morning to the harsh metallic sound of a drill pounding into the ground. Around our HOA, construction noises were nothing new. Someone was always hammering, trimming, or improving something. But this noise felt different. It was too close. Coffee mug in hand, I stepped out onto my back porch, and the sight that greeted me nearly made me spill it all over the deck. There it was. A brand new, glaringly white vinyl fence running straight through my backyard like a scar cutting across skin. It slashed right through my vegetable garden, curved past my old oak tree, and ended directly against the edge of my shed. It was tall, immaculate, and definitely not mine. I stood frozen for a moment, trying to process what I was looking at. Then, I heard her. "Oh, good morning!" Karen's shrill, chipper voice rang out from the other side. There she was. Pink blouse, oversized sunglasses, a clipboard clutched under one arm, and that trademark smug grin plastered across her face. "Hope you don't mind," she said sweetly. "I went ahead and fixed the property line." "Fixed?" I asked, almost laughing. "That fence is on my land." Karen shook her head confidently and tapped her clipboard. No. The HOA's updated guidelines show this section as part of the community perimeter. I just followed the latest survey. You'll adjust." I stared at her in disbelief. "Karen, my deed and the official plat map clearly state that everything behind that oak tree, including where your shiny fence is standing, belongs to me." She scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Those documents are probably outdated. I'll send, you the HOA's revised plan. Honestly, you should be thanking me. This will raise all our property values." I bit back my frustration, turned on my heel, and snapped a series of photos of the fence. Then I walked back inside without another word. There was no way I was letting this nonsense slide. That same afternoon, I drove straight to the county land office. Within half an hour, the clerk pulled up the official boundaries. Just as I suspected, Karen's brand new fence extended a full 12 feet into my property. The officer gave me a sympathetic shake of his head. "You're well within your rights to have that removed. Want us to issue a formal notice?" "Yes," I said firmly, "and I want everything documented." "Consider it done," he replied. "And just so you know, if she built that without a permit too, she's in bigger trouble than she thinks." When I pulled back into the neighborhood later, Karen was outside, casually watering her flowers as though nothing had happened. I didn't say a word. The storm heading her way wasn't coming from me. It was coming straight from the county. 3. Days later, I was on my porch sipping coffee when I saw it. A bright orange notice taped to the center of Karen's sparkling white fence, fluttering in the morning breeze like a scarlet flag. Notice of encroachment and code violation. "Immediate action required!" The moment Karen spotted it, she let out a scream loud enough to rattle windows. She stormed across her lawn, heels sinking into the grass, clipboard swinging dangerously. Snatching the notice off the fence, she scanned. Then snapped her head toward me. "What did you do?" she shrieked. I didn't flinch. "I called the county. You built that fence 12 feet into my property." "No, I didn't," she barked. "The HOA map isn't legally binding," I cut in. "The county's plat map overrides whatever's in your HOA newsletter, and they've already verified it." Karen stomped back toward her house, ranting into her phone about retaliation, neighbors with grudges, and an emergency board meeting. She still thought she could intimidate her way out of this. The very next morning, a white truck with county zoning department stamped on the side rolled into our neighborhood. Out stepped 2 inspectors, clipboards in hand. They walked the length of the property, flagged the fence line, measured everything twice, and snapped photos from every angle. One of them knocked on my door. "We'll be filing a demolition order within the week. Need anything else from you?" I shook my head. "Nope. You've done everything by the book," he said. "She built without a permit and encroached onto your lot. Honestly, she's lucky you're not suing." Meanwhile, Karen was in her yard, phone in hand, recording the entire inspection like some sort of reality TV star. I could hear her muttering about harassment, lawsuits, and how she was going to go viral. Later that afternoon, 3 HOA board members came knocking on my door. Their faces were tight, their tone diplomatic. "Maybe we can resolve this amicably," one suggested. Karen thought she was working with the right documents. I raised an eyebrow. Amicably would have been asking permission before hammering posts into my property. You all know that fence is illegal. So tell me, are you here to help her cover this up, or to take responsibility? The 3 exchanged glances. Finally, one of them sighed. "We didn't approve the build. She bypassed us. You're right. And no, we're not protecting her." That was the moment I knew the tide had shifted. Karen wasn't just fighting me anymore. She was up against the very system she thought she controlled. By the weekend, her perfect little world was crumbling. Another notice was slapped onto the fence, this one ordering mandatory removal within 72 hours plus a hefty fine. Karen tore the fence down in a fit of rage, but not before I snapped a photo for my records. Her once flawless, smug demeanor had cracked wide open. The last time I saw her that week, she was red-faced, yelling at a contractor in her driveway, wildly gesturing at the half-dismantled fence. And me? I was enjoying every second of watching her empire of control finally collapse. He shook his head and drove off. I guess Karen thought someone would just come along and quietly take the fence down for her until they saw that official county seal. Nobody wanted to touch it and risk liability. That night, around 11 p.m., I heard hammering. Curious, I peeked out the window, and what I saw nearly made me fall over laughing. There was Karen, slippers on her feet, robe tied loosely, a headlamp strapped to her forehead, dragging around a toolbox like some kind of midnight burglar. She was crouched in the grass, fumbling with bolts and screws, trying to dismantle an industrial-grade vinyl fence piece by piece. The sight was so absurd I nearly choked on my own laughter. The next morning, I called the county inspector. "She's out there in her pajamas trying to take it down herself," I reported. He chuckled. "That's her right. As long as it's gone by the deadline, we don't care." I leaned in. "Yeah, but she's leaving behind broken posts, concrete holes, and damage to my yard." He paused. "That's a separate issue. Document everything. You can file a property damage report and we'll back you up." So that's exactly what I did. I photographed everything: splintered nails, scraps of debris, trampled plants, a snapped sprinkler line, and half a dozen concrete footings still stuck in my grass. But Karen wasn't about to admit defeat. At the next HOA meeting, she stood up, clipboard in hand, and launched into a full-blown tirade. She accused me of intimidation, claimed I'd forged documents, and even suggested I was jealous of her landscaping. I didn't say a word, because 2 rows behind her sat the county representative, waiting patiently. When Karen finished her rant, the rep stood up, cleared his throat, and pulled out a prepared statement. His voice carried across the silent room as he read aloud. The fence was in violation, its removal was mandatory, and failure to comply would trigger daily fines and a formal lawsuit. Karen's face drained of color. For once, she had nothing to say. She just turned to me, eyes wide like I had somehow orchestrated the whole thing. All I said was, "You should have knocked before building." Day 3 rolled around, and with it, the final deadline. That morning, a county crew pulled into the neighborhood with a flatbed truck and power tools. 4 workers stepped out, helmets strapped, safety vests glowing under the sun. Karen came running out of her house screaming, pleading, even trying to stand in front of the fence like a human barricade. It didn't matter. The crew handed her the official removal order and went straight to work. Panel by panel, post by post, the fence that had caused weeks of chaos began to crumble. The high-pitched whine of saws, the steady thud of posts being Yanked, the grinding roar of augers, it echoed across the neighborhood like a demolition symphony. Neighbors peeked out from windows, some even gathered on porches, watching the spectacle unfold like it was free Saturday entertainment. Karen stood off to the side, arms crossed so tightly her knuckles turned white, lips pressed into a thin, trembling line. Then, the dump truck arrived. That's when Karen finally snapped. "Wait!" she cried, rushing forward. "At least let me keep the panels. I paid for those." The foreman, calm as ever, pointed to the paperwork in his hand. "Ma'am, under Section 12 of the removal order, all unpermitted materials on encroached land must be disposed of. You had 3 days to retrieve them." Karen's voice cracked, desperation flooding her tone. "I didn't know. I was misinformed. That land looked abandoned." Tears welled in her eyes. The foreman's voice softened, but his words were final. "No permit, no approval, no rights. You were warned." And just like that, Karen broke. She sank down onto the sidewalk, mascara running in black streaks down her cheeks, clutching her HOA clipboard like it was a lifeline. Then she collapsed, fully into the grass, sobbing as if losing that fence had unraveled her entire identity. Me? I didn't gloat. I didn't taunt. I just unfolded a lawn chair, poured myself a glass of lemonade, and watched justice happen. By the time the crew hauled away the last panel and flagged the holes in my yard for regrading, the county inspector approached me. "Want to file a formal damage report?" he asked, gesturing to my crushed planter, broken sprinkler, and the torn-up lawn. "Absolutely," I said. "She's going to make this right," and she did, though not by choice. Over the next week, Karen was slammed with 3 separate fines: unauthorized construction, code violation, and property damage. The HOA wasted no time distancing themselves. Word spread quickly that Karen had acted alone. They stripped her of her beautification committee title and quietly replaced her in meetings. As for me, she never so much as waved in my direction again. No shouting, no smug smiles, no clipboard lectures. She just avoided me completely, like I was walking around with the county seal stamped across my chest. A few weeks later, a contractor showed up at my door, sent by Karen. He fixed my yard, laid down fresh sod, and replaced the broken sprinkler. I signed the release form, and that was that. She had complied, but her reputation? Shattered. The self-proclaimed queen bee of the neighborhood had become the cautionary tale everyone whispered about. And that fence? It proved one thing. Entitlement. When unchecked, will always collapse, especially when you build it on someone else's land. And that, my friends, was just the beginning. If you've ever had to deal with a nosy HOA Karen who thinks the whole neighborhood belongs to her, smash that like button. Share your own HOA horror stories in the comments. I read every single one. And if you love seeing these moments where real justice wins, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because the next fence might just show up in your yard.